Time now for Media Watch. Emma James joins me on set for a look at the latest stories and trends online and in the press. Emma, British general election tonight, of course, a must-do for you, for all of us. After a dramatic and surprising 24 hours, what's being said?
Well, as you might imagine, it wasn't just a big failure for certain politicians last night. There are also a lot of questions being asked about the pollsters, because the opinion polls really got this all wrong. And if we take a look at The Guardian, that's
And we, for one, were guilty of trusting them too much.
Absolutely. But in the 2010, they were pretty accurate. So, you know, they have in the past proven to be something to be trusted. They have got it wrong, of course, on occasions. But 2010, they were pretty accurate. This time around, it seemed feasible that, you know, the two main parties were going to be tied neck
Well,
and neck.
especially as all the polls were saying the same thing within a few percentage points.
Yeah, I mean, any polls that put Labour or Conservatives slightly ahead, it was only by a couple of percentage points. So what The Guardian is asking is, how did the polls get it so wrong? And they're saying that basically, if you look at the methods involved, it's the same as we had in Scotland, yet in Scotland the polls were accurate. So what is the difference between the rest of the United Kingdom and Scotland? Is it just that the rest of the UK weren't being honest about who they were planning to vote for? Were they a little bit shy?
Or when they answer the pollsters' questions.
Exactly. Did they have a last-minute change of heart? And also one of the things they're looking at is most of the polls are done either over landline telephones, which attracts a certain demographic, probably older, because most younger people are using just their mobiles. And then the other ones are all done online. So again, that's slightly skewing, maybe potentially, how representative these polls are. Although it still doesn't explain why Scotland was pretty much bang on, and the rest of the UK wildly different. Now, The Economist has very kindly tweeted or retweeted an article that it did back in January saying Tony Blair was the first person to call the result of this general election. He said it back in January that he didn't think Labour would win this election. Now,
the political acumen has not gone away.
Exactly. I mean, Tony Blair, former Labour leader, former Prime Minister, certainly a man in the know and proving the fact there with that.
He senses the mood.
Exactly. One of the other questions that people are asking is the British or UK system really fair in terms of how the results turn into seats in Parliament? If we take a look at this chart, which is from the Financial Times, you can see that it's really the UKIP party that has suffered very heavily, because in terms of the number of votes, they come in third. They got something like 4 million votes, yet that only turned into one seat in Parliament. And so there is a huge discrepancy there. And a lot of people are saying that really should 4 million voices be able to be ignored in that way?
It's a third in number of votes and probably sixth or seventh, that I have to look at it again, in terms of number of seats.
Yes. Just one sole lonely seat for the UK Independence Party. So Nigel Farage saying, you know, this isn't just a protest vote, it is a genuine movement within the UK, and he is among many calling for this method to be looked at.
Well, he still had to resign after failing to win his constituency. So after the results and some of the surprises that we've been discussing, who's emerging in the media spotlight right now?
Well, of course, David Cameron. We wouldn't expect anything else. He's managed to avoid becoming a Prime Minister who never actually won an election, because, of course, last time round, technically speaking, he didn't win it. He only managed to form a government by forming a coalition. We thought it was going to be the same this time around, but no, he's won an outright majority. And this is his celebratory victory tweet, if you like. Here's to a brighter future for everyone. Slightly awkward-looking embrace in the rather dingy corridor there. And, of course, as you might imagine, out there on the internet, plenty of these kind of images. Here he's seen snuggling up to Kanye West, the American rapper, of course, sometimes better known as Mr. Kim Kardashian. Elsewhere, we've got Ed Miliband. I don't know if you remember Millifandom. It was something of a phenomenon. It emerged a couple of weeks before the election, where supposedly teenage girls were falling for Ed Miliband and his slightly unconventional charms, you might say, to be polite.
So he doesn't appeal to you, but you don't have the same taste as everyone else.
No, but I don't know too many people who genuinely find him attractive. But anyway, that started a couple of weeks back, and the term Millifandom was coined, and lots of people got behind the idea of it, and it really did take over Twitter for quite a few days. It was the most used hashtag in the UK on one particular evening. BuzzFeed UK here has shown a few of the pictures that were circulating at the time, and actually taking a quote from Miliband's resignation speech saying, "Thanks for the selfies. Thank you for the most unlikely cult of the 21st century." So he admits it himself.
He did address that.
Now, the girl who started it all, a 17-year-old called Abby, she's tweeted, "I was happy that Ed mentioned us in his speech, but it should have been an acceptance, not a resignation. I feel like I let him down. So sorry, Ed." I thought that was rather sweet. But of course, set to emerge from the political shadows, Ed Miliband's brother, David. Now, one of the reasons I think that he isn't too popular in the UK, Ed Miliband, is because he was largely seen as having stabbed his brother in the back to secure himself the Labour leadership. He beat his brother David. David then quit politics, moved to New York, and what the Telegraph is asking is, where is he now? Because he's not said anything since the election results. Now, that's the picture of the two brothers together there. He did tweet on Thursday to say everyone should get out and vote, Ed for PM, giving his support to Labour, as you might expect. But there's been nothing heard of him ever since. And various reporters have gone knocking on his door. His doorman apparently said that he imagined that the reason Mr. Miliband had gone away was because all these reporters were turning up. But back in January or December last year, he spoke to the Financial Times and he was asked, "Is there a chance of you returning to frontline politics?" And he said then, "You never know."
So he did leave the door open.
He has left the door open. It could happen. And this is one of my favourite images. It's obviously an old photograph, but teamed with the message, "David Miliband is gutted after he hears the news about his brother's defeat." Certain irony in that one. Elsewhere, one of the other things that's really been getting a lot of attention, slightly strangely, Paddy Ashdown, a former leader of the Liberal Democrat Party, talking on British television last night, when the exit polls came out, he said, "I don't believe it. Something's obviously gone very wrong here. If those exit polls are right, I will eat my hat."
So did he?
Paddy Ashdown's hat now has its own Twitter account. I'm not going to show it to you because some of the language on it is a little choice. But there are lots of nice images like this on a huge bowler hat in the City of London with the message "Bon appétit" for Paddy Ashdown, because, of course, those exit polls were absolutely correct. In fact, slightly underestimated just how well the Conservative Party had done.
All right, we'll see whether he still has an appetite for his hat. Emma James will be covering that for us. Emma James with Media Watch. Thank you very much.